Did you know Squid Games actually based on true events from the 80s? It's all based around the 1986 Brothers House incident in Korea, where an orphanage was essentially turned into the Squid Game.
I'm back, SplitFightTTI to the end. Today we're taking a look at these creepy TikTok videos. Apparently TikTok got banned yesterday, sadly, and then it got restored yesterday. So they both got banned and restored, in the US at least. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the video. If you guys like the video, try to get to 1,000 likes this video. It says around 70% of you guys are not subscribed, so make sure to subscribe.
This is how you transform the White House from one president to another.
Make America powerful again.
Moving out, cleaning, repainting, and so much more is a Herculean task. However, the roughly 100 members of the White House staff assigned to these duties have less than 6 hours to make it all happen. Worse yet, any simple mistake could turn the president's first day in office into a disaster in a number of ways. Packing up the White House is much more complicated than renting a U-Haul and a trailer, putting all your junk in it, and slapping the ratchet straps with a "that's not going anywhere." For you see, the White House is a massive historic mansion with 6 floors and 20,000 square feet of living space within an area known as the executive residence. Starting from the bottom, there are 2 stories to the basement. The lowest one houses machinery and support systems for the White House, while the first floor of the basement hosts the kitchen, tons of storage, and other ancillary service equipment. While the executive residence is actually 6 floors, including 2 basements, an attic, and a public ground floor, the first and second floors are where the actual living quarters are. The first family normally occupies the first floor, while the second floor houses mainly guest suites and other living spaces. All told, the 20,000 square feet of the executive residence has dozens of rooms, including approximately 20 bedrooms and 35 bathrooms, among other office and personal spaces that must be packed up, cleaned out, and moved in with new stuff in less than 6 hours. This makes picking up that pile of dirty laundry from your floor that's been sitting there all week seem like a cakewalk. Just how the White House manages to pull this off is nothing short of extraordinary. How in the world is the White House supposed to plan for such a massive undertaking? Believe it or not, the planning actually starts right after Election Day. Traditionally, once the race is called and it's clear who the winner is, the White House will begin working with the incoming administration. The person in charge of this process is the White House Chief Usher. The White House Chief Usher oversees roughly 100 butlers, maids, chefs, housekeepers, engineers, and other staff serving the first family at the executive residence. After the election, the chief usher will send questionnaires to the incoming president's.
Remember Trump's first term, he was talking about how he didn't want to live in the White House. He actually wanted to live in his normal little penthouse, but nah, gang, you're the president.
Dumbest criminals in the history, part 2. Jeezy Morris, 20, was wanted for violating the terms of his parole. One thing you don't want to do when you're wanted is to be seen. Although he didn't think about this, he and his friends posted a ice bucket challenge that went viral. Someone noticed Morris and called the cops. Morris was then stopped by the cops. He then showed a fake ID to the police, who then arrested him. He was then sentenced to more charges than he should have if he would have acted right.
Yesterday we talked about the satanic idol from the Warrens Museum, but today we're talking about the Doll of Shadows. According to Ed Warren, this doll was created with the intent of causing harm through dark rituals. The face is made out of a papier-mâché material, while the mouth is fitted with a single human tooth on the inside. Black feathers are placed on top of the doll's head, while nails and animal bones protrude from the doll itself. The story behind it is a young couple of doll collectors pick up this item from an antique dealer, who practically gives it away to them. I mean, warning sign number 1. On the first night that the couple brings the doll home, they go to bed and everything is normal, until both of them experience a series of horrific nightmares. And when they wake up, it's claimed that there's scratches all over their bodies. The following night, they experience another series of nightmares. Except this time, they wake up with distinct claw marks all over their bodies. Fearing that things will only continue to amplify, they reach out to the Warrens. Ed goes to their home and they just say, "Take it, just take it." And ever since, the doll has remained in the care of the Warrens. Over the years, Ed shared the process of how this doll would be used. It's claimed that somebody practicing dark magic would first take a photo of the doll. The photo would be printed, and on the back a curse would be written. That photo would then be sent to the victim. Through the gesture of the recipient opening the envelope, it was symbolic of them accepting the curse that was written on the back of the photo. Furthermore, once that recipient saw the image of the doll, that meant the doll could then be projected into their dreams. But none of y'all try to send me a photo with this doll and some scribble on the back. I'm not playing that game. Ed stated that the doll couldn't just be destroyed, since it acts as a vessel for the negative entity. So that brings us to, what item do you want to talk about next? A big thank you to those who recommended this topic on the last video. And aside from paranormal, I love all things true crime, spooky, unusual. So if you have any other suggestions on videos that you would like to see, please feel free to comment below.
Famous TikTokers before and after puberty, part 1. Little Huddy really went from a Musical.ly king to our melanin king. Addison doesn't even look like the same person here. She went from looking like the hot Cheeto girl to Margaret damn Roby. Josh Richards looks exactly like this kid. Like, Josh, you got a fresh cut, didn't you? I spent hours on the internet looking for a picture of Charli D'Amelio, and this was the best I could come up with. Tell me why she looks the exact same. Charli, explain to me why when you were 7 years old you looked better than I do now. I'm not kidding. I want answers. Here are some facts that you probably didn't know that one day could save your life. Part 2. If you ever fall off the edge of a subway platform and onto the tracks, don't waste your time trying to crawl back up. There's a crawl space built for a person to go underneath in case this happens. If you ever for some reason ingest windshield wiper fluid or antifreeze, drink large amounts of vodka to keep it from shredding your kidneys to give you time to get to a hospital. If a tornado looks like it's not moving, it's actually moving toward you. If you accidentally disturb a beehive or wasp's nest, do not run for the water. They'll wait for you to resurface and then resume stinging you. Just run as fast and as far away as you can, because eventually they'll stop following you. If a deer is running across the road, it's better to hit it than swerve and run into a ditch. But if there's a moose in the middle of the road, swerve and run into a ditch. Hitting a moose is like running into a brick wall.
It's what she finds in the kitchen that's really scary. In the early 90s, a young girl was sleeping in her mom's bed when she suddenly woke up for no reason. She looked at her door and she saw her very affectionate cat kind of meowing down the hall as if someone was coming up to pet it, but she was next to her mom and they were the only ones in the house. The girl shakes her mom awake and points to the cat just as a man is walking past the door and disappears into the room across the hall. Before the man could come back out and find them, they both jump out the window, run across the street, and call the police. When the police arrive, the guy is nowhere to be found, but they do discover that the front door was unlocked, so that had to be the way he got in and out. But the mother swears up and down that she locked that door before she went to bed. A week later, the mother's cleaning their kitchen and she opens up the water heater closet where she finds this notebook that inside is their names and pictures of them in it, along with a pair of surgical gloves. Which means someone had snuck in at some point, was living in that closet spying on them, and then walking around their house at night.
I love the fact that he said as soon as they saw someone else in their house, they just jumped out the window. And that's what I would do. A lot of people be like, nah, I'd fight back. I'm like, no, dude, just get out and call the police.
How animals see, part 2. This is how rabbits see. Unlike humans, they do not have an indented pupil. This causes rabbits to have a static effect to their vision. This is how flies see. Flies have around 4,000 lenses on their eyes. Flies also have 5 eyes. This is how your dog sees the world. Humans have 3 eye cones, but dogs only have 2. This means dogs can't see the colors red or green. Their eyes can be compared to a human who's colorblind. This is how shrimp see. They have 16 photoreceptors, and these divide ultraviolet light into distinct colors. Tips that could save your life one day. When you go into a bathroom or changing room, make sure no one's looking at you using a two-way mirror. A two-way mirror means that someone on the other side could be looking at you, but there's an easy way to tell the difference. Put your finger on the surface of the mirror. If there's a gap between your finger and its reflection, then you're safe. But if there isn't, then it's a two-way mirror. If you're in an emergency and need to get to one floor straight away without any stops in an elevator, here's what to do. Press the close door button and the floor you want to go to. Keep holding them down until you reach that floor. This will bypass any stops, and it's often used by emergency services. What if you're driving a car and suddenly you fall into water? You won't be able to open your car's door because of the water pressure closing it shut. You actually need to roll down your window. This will allow some water to go into the car. The pressure will then equalize and the doors will open automatically and you can swim out.
Safest countries to live if WW3 breaks out. Switzerland. Tuvalu. New Zealand, Bhutan, Chile, Iceland, Canada, South Africa, Greenland,
How would Canada be considered safe? Isn't Canada allied with the US? Like, I'm pretty sure they're our allies, so they're also in NATO. So if we go to war, wouldn't all of us go to war? We're talking World War III. We're not talking about, like, no Cold War. Like, we're talking about World War, so I don't know.
It was Christmas Eve, and 11-year-old Juliet was decorating the tree. It was getting late, and her mother called her and said she would be home from work a bit late tonight. Juliet said okay and continued decorating the tree until she was finished. She relaxed for a bit and stared out of the 6th floor apartment window at the skyline of the city when suddenly she began to hear scratching at her front door. She then went up to the door and listened and looked through the peephole and saw a man dressed as Santa. Nervous, Juliet asked, "Who's there?" "It's Santa Claus. Let me in. I'm cold and hungry," said the man. She knew this wasn't Santa and said, "My mom's not home. Can you please leave?" Juliet watched through the peephole as the man's face turned angry and he began banging the door and twisting the doorknob. He then screamed, "It's Santa, Juliet. Give me my damn milk and cookies." Juliet's stomach dropped. She was terrified now. How did he know her name? She then threatened to call the cops and the man finally stopped and walked down the hallway. Suddenly, the man came running back down the hallway with an axe in his hand and began striking the door with it until it broke. Juliet ran and hid in a closet. The man entered the apartment and began saying, "Juliet, my pretty, where are you?" He then opened a closet door and suddenly Juliet jumped at him and stabbed him in the eye with a coat hanger. The man screamed and yanked it from his eye and grabbed Juliet and held her on the ground. He then whispered in her ear, "You can scream and beg for your life, but naughty girls get the axe and nice girls get the knife." Juliet's mother returned home a little after midnight and saw her door hacked to pieces. She ran inside to make sure her daughter was okay. She looked around and began screaming in horror. The Christmas tree was decorated with Juliet's organs and her head was perched at the top like a star.
Well, that family's not gonna be having a jolly Christmas.
These are pictures with the most disturbing backstories, part 2. This is 19-year-old Deborah Freitas Bessa. And on January 9th, 2018, she disappeared. And 2 days later, her family learned that the girl had been kidnapped during a robbery in the city of Rio Branco in the Brazilian state of Acre. And a short time later, a video of her execution began circulating on social media. The footage shows Deborah on her knees begging for her life, saying she did nothing wrong. But one of the men, the one holding the machete, tells Deborah to look at the camera and tells her that she was guilty of killing his brothers. Further footage of the video shows them and then. According to Deborah's sister, Sarah Bessa, Deborah was a member of a drug cartel but decided to leave them because she wanted a better life for her 5-year-old daughter. Some sources even state that Deborah was supposed to be hiding from the gang in church. They managed to catch one of the men in the video, the one holding the machete, and then one woman, Lucio Souza, who was also supposed to participate in the execution. Both were sentenced to 60 years in prison, but after the appeal, however, the man holding the machete in the video got his sentence reduced to only 36.5 years. They were both members of a well-known Brazilian cartel. I warn you never to look up this video because it's absolutely disturbing. Your hands will be shaking and your stomach will be turning.
It hasn't even been 24 hours of 2025 and a lot has happened already. Early this morning, a Cybertruck in Las Vegas exploded outside of a Trump hotel. If you look at the footage, it kind of looks like there were fireworks going off after the explosion. Apparently, people saw smoke coming out of the car before it exploded, but that doesn't explain why someone would remain in the car if that was the case. Unfortunately, the person inside the car did pass away and there were 7 other people that were injured. People instantly believe that this was a malfunction of the car because we've seen Teslas catch on fire before, but we've never seen them explode out of nowhere. But Elon Musk recently came out with a statement and he said that the explosion was caused by very large fireworks and or bombs, and it was carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck, and it's unrelated to the vehicle itself. I've been seeing a lot of Cybertrucks lately, but after seeing this, I think I'm just gonna stay away from them for now.
Yeah, I remember when 2025 first started and I heard about that, I was just like, So I did my personal digging, and it turns out that it was more like a terrorist attack. Like, they pretty much put bombs and fireworks in like the bed of the truck, and they try to pretty much send a message, but they did it in a $100,000 damn near titanium vehicle, and the explosion was pretty much contained. Like, it really didn't do too much.
How many animals humans eat every year? Sea urchins, camels. I didn't even know camels were edible. Horses, we ride though. Cats, who's eating kids? Tilapia, I eat that all the time. Snails, I love a seafood. Dogs, how is dogs even up there? Guinea pigs, shark, I can see. You know what I mean? Get them out. Cows, oh my God, 300 million cows. 500 million lambs. Lobster, oh my God, that's probably me. I probably eat all that lobster. Turkey, salmon, I get it. Tuna, 900 million? I've never even seen people like rabbit like that. Octopus, I guess 2 billion? 2 billion oysters. 2 billion, yo, wow. This is a year. Shrimp, I understand, I love shrimp. Sardines, I eat sardines too. 75 billion.
I don't know how dogs or cats is even that high. Like 10 million, 35 million? What? Who the hell's eating dogs and cats? Definitely not the US, I'll tell you that.
Tallest statues in the world. Japan. Hokkaido Cannon 289 feet. Thailand. Great Buddha of Thailand 300 feet. China. Gishin Guanyin 325 feet. Japan. Sendai Daikanon 330 feet. Japan. Ashiku Daibutsu 335 feet. India. Statue of Belief 351 feet. Myanmar. Lake Sekya 380 feet. China. Spring Temple Buddha 420 feet. India. Statue of Unity 599 feet.
The smallest prisoner in the world, and you'll never guess the terrible things he did. Part 2. 7-year-old Danny became the smallest prisoner in the world after committing a horrifying act. While his parents went out for a quick errand, he was left in charge of his 15-month-old sister. During their absence, Danny put his sister in the oven and turned it on. When the parents returned and found the oven on, they rushed to the kitchen. They found the baby unharmed, but the oven was filled with burnt toys. Danny confessed that he was trying to cook the toys to see if they would turn into something new. Shocked by his coldness, the parents sought police help, but it was later determined that psychological help was needed. Danny was admitted for treatment, and the story sparked a debate about children's behavior and proper supervision. Do you watch your kids closely? Follow the profile for real stories.
Dude, I thought he put his baby sister / brother in the freaking oven. I was like, dude, that's cold. That is cold. And he's a kid too, so that means that kid could grow up to be like the next Ted Bundy if he does something like that.
This is Margaret Schilling, and she disappeared under some mysterious circumstances. She was a patient in Athens Mental Health and Development Center. She was playing hide and seek with one of the nurses. Now here's where things get suspicious. There are over 2,000 patients housed in this asylum, and they could not find her. They found her about a month later in January. Her body was lifeless, and because she was deaf and mute, she couldn't really communicate. When they moved her body, this was left, and no matter how much they washed it or power washed it, it would not come out. It's speculated her body went under saponification, which is when your skin and your body literally just turned into soap. Even till this day, her stain is still in there. But let's be real here, a game of hide and seek, and you couldn't find her? This was definitely planned, and I think they definitely murdered her. And although she was deaf and mute, why didn't she get up from that spot? It makes me think there was some sort of trauma involved, blunt force trauma, and somebody left her there. It really doesn't make sense that she would be there for an entire month into the new year. Something about this story is very, very fishy to me. It's also very sad because she should not have been treated that way. What are your thoughts and your theories on this story? And as always, these videos are for informational and entertainment purposes only, guys.
I'm going to ruin your childhood, part 26. All the characters in Winnie the Pooh represent mental disorders. Christopher Robin represents schizophrenia. Winnie the Pooh represents an eating disorder. Eeyore represents depression. Tigger represents ADHD. Piglet represents anxiety. Rabbit represents OCD. Roo represents autism. Owl represents narcissism.
He's the reason why parents started to check Halloween candy to make sure it was safe. On Halloween night in 1974, Ronald Clark O'Brien poisoned his own children's Halloween candy by lacing large pixie sticks with cyanide. After a night full of trick-or-treating, the family returns home where Ronald tells his children that they could each have one piece of candy before bed, and horrifically, his 8-year-old son Timothy chooses to eat the pixie stick. Just when you think that this case can't get worse, it does, because when 8-year-old Timothy opens the pixie stick and starts to eat it, he complains immediately that it tastes bitter because of the cyanide, and his father had the heart to just look at this little face and tell him, "I'll get you Kool-Aid to wash it down," very well knowing what was going to happen. Ronald would later tell police from the moment that he gave Timothy the Kool-Aid and shut the door, it took only 30 seconds until Timothy started to cry, "Daddy, Daddy, my stomach hurts." He was in the bathroom, convulsing, vomiting, and gasping, and then suddenly he went limp. Tragically, on the way to the hospital, Timothy passes away less than an hour after eating the candy. Immediately, this crime sent shockwaves through the community, initially sparking widespread fear that a stranger had tampered with the candy. However, suspicion quickly fell on Ronald when investigators uncovered his financial troubles, since he was more than $100,000 in debt and recently took out life insurance policies on both his children. During the investigation, it was discovered that he had also handed out more poisoned candy to other children that night, but fortunately, none of them consumed it. Prior to Halloween night, police discovered that Ronald had contacted multiple chemical companies to buy cyanide and even jokingly asked them how much it would take to end somebody's life. In 1975, Ronald OBrien was convicted of murder and was later executed by lethal injection in 1984, although he never admitted guilt, and even in his last words, he denied any wrongdoing. Ultimately, his crime left a lasting mark on Halloween in America, fueling paranoia around tainted candy for years to come. In the end, I'm glad that this monster got what he deserves. I can't comprehend what kind of person could harm any kid, let alone their own kid. And as always, follow along if you're a fan of all things interesting and horrific.
Harming your own kid like that and acting like you did nothing is lethal work, mostly as a father. I mean, they figure out the reason why he did it anyways. It was because he was broke and he wanted to get life insurance for his kid, which is messed up if you really think about it.
Did you know Squid Games actually based on true events from the 80s? It's all based around the 1986 Brothers House incident in Korea, where an orphanage was essentially turned into the Squid Game. Founded in 1960, the Brothers House orphanage ran normally until 1986. A billionaire adopted all the kids and then bought the orphanage and locked them all in it, hiring workers that hid their face like this and forced these children in blue jumpsuits to play kids games. And if you're wondering, you didn't want to lose. The creator of Squid Game claims that it was not based on anything, but this is in the TV show where the guards sleep, and this is at the Brothers House where they kept the children. Also, these were the Squid Game guards, and these were the guards in the real life. Now, you can look this up for yourself. This is actually one of the worst human rights violations in history. But weirdly, around 2020, it was kind of scrubbed from the internet, with many people theorizing Netflix did this in order for the Squid Games to be posted as normal. This is until some survivors of the Brothers House started speaking up this year. They started realizing how awfully similar the Squid Games looks and plays just like the Brother House. Squid Games denies there's any influence or ties to this, but I want to know what your thoughts are because I think there is.
Yo, that's crazy. When I first saw that video, that kind of gave me chills because I was like, dude, it's crazy that I see this video as I was thinking about it the other day watching season 2 of Squid Games. Like, I wonder if this is based off of a real event. And it really was based off of a real event. If you've seen Squid Games, put your thoughts about it in the comments.
These people evolved to live on the ocean. The Baja People found on the waters of Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines lived their entire lives on houseboats. It's understood they've retained this lifestyle for around 1,000 years. They spend most of the day diving into the ocean, hunting fish and other sea creatures. But here's where things get really interesting. They can hold their breath underwater for up to 13 minutes and dive as far down as 60 meters. Due to the pressure of the water that far down, Some actually pierce their eardrums, which is actually really bad for them, and some of them go deaf. Now, the reason they're able to hold their breaths underwater for so long is because they evolved larger spleens in comparison to other humans, providing more oxygen to their blood. Their spleens tend to be at least 50% larger than ours. Isn't that interesting?
The strangest fact about each zodiac sign. Okay, firstly, it's scientifically proven that if you're a Gemini, you're good at lying. So the next time you're around a Gemini, you might not want to believe everything they say. Alright, next, if you're a Taurus, the strangest fact about you guys is you all are known to be stalkers. The scary thing is, you might never know they're doing this. Now, this one creeps me out. Out of all the signs, Scorpios are the ones who have the most dark and creepy thoughts. But my question is, what do you all be thinking about? Well, if that wasn't bad enough, Cancers are proven to be the most dangerous. They get arrested the most, and the crimes are usually pretty serious. I'm sorry to say, but if you're a Leo, it's proven that you guys are the worst drivers. Finally, this is probably the most unusual fact of them all. If you're an Aries, it's said that you are obsessed with death. This just doesn't sit right with me.
Here's 3 things you need to understand about polar bears. They're one of the few animals that will actively hunt humans, as in track you down and put you on a meal prep if they're desperate enough. And unlike other bears, polar bears are hypercarnivores, meaning they don't do the bugs and berries thing. Nah, for them it's all meat all the time. Which leads to the next fact, and it's that they're bloodhounds on steroids. A polar bear can sniff out a seal for well over 10 miles, and they can even smell one through 3 feet of ice. They'll smell you long before they see you. Which is why if you do see a polar bear, it's probably already too late. There's a good chance it's been plotting on you for a minute. And number 3, studies say one way to survive a polar bear encounter is to remove articles of clothing and drop them one at a time. That way the Caucasian killer will get distracted and stop to examine them. Which sounds great until you remember, you can't outrun, outswim, or even dig deep enough to hide from one. And they live in hell frozen over. So you either get to freeze to death and die naked, or wait for the bear to eventually track you down like Liam Neeson. Moral of this video, if it's black, attack. If it's brown, get on the ground. If it's white like the president, you finna be heaven sent.
Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you, part 2. A French president died from a blowjob. My man Felix Faure literally got his soul sucked out of him. He was both coming and going. The deadliest female serial killer in American history had murdered 35 people with an axe by the time she was 18 years old. When the ruler of Poland, Jadwiga, was considering a marriage proposal from the Grand Duke of Lithuania, her peers were worried because it was rumored that he had massive genitals and would kill his wife on the wedding night. They ended up sending 2 spies to Lithuania to find out if it was true, and they came back and happily reported that there was nothing to worry about. Powdered wigs were originally invented to cover up head sores caused by syphilis. The first person to examine semen under a microscope was Antony van Leeuwenhoek, the father or daddy of microbiology.
Mother was caught having an affair with her son. They were both burned to death. This was one of the 282 official laws of the Code of Hammurabi, one of the first ever written set of laws in history dating back to 1750 BC in ancient Babylon. And yo, these laws get absolutely wild. If a man ever broke another man's bone, by law he would have to have that same bone broken on him. If a son ever hit his father, the code demanded that the son's hands be cut off. If a son simply told his father, "You're not my dad," the law stated that the son would need to get his tongue cut off. If a home was ever robbed, the thief would need to be taken back to the home, killed there, and then buried. Hey, I don't want no thief dying in my house. If a wife was ever caught cheating, law stated that her and the cheater would need to be tied up and thrown into a river. If a man ever killed a pregnant woman, then his daughter would be put to death. I don't get the logic here, but that's what it was. If a wife ever cooked a dinner that didn't taste good, then her husband would have to backhand her in the face. Nah, I'm joking, I made that up. But crimes that couldn't be proven would be placed under trial. Except their trials consisted of the accused jumping into a river. If they drowned and died, they were considered guilty, and then the accuser would have legal possession of their home. But if they swam to safety, then the accuser would instead be put to death, and the accused would have legal possession of their home. Man, we come a long way. Think about these next time you're paying for a parking ticket.
Nah, that's why that backhand one really got me, because I was like, there's no way. Imagine making a meal, you know what I'm saying? And you think it tastes good. You're like, you know, I think this tastes good. You give it to like your husband, let's say, and bro's like, ew. Like, nah.
Scary Urban Legends, Part 6. This is Krasu. She's a Thailand legend. She's a female spirit who wanders the fields at night. At first you would just see her face, until you look down and she has no body, and just her internal organs. Her guts are usually covered with fresh red blood. Her face appears to look somewhat like a vampire's. She has very sharp teeth and sometimes has a blue halo around her head. She is always hungry for meat, whether that be animal meat or human meat. Before she goes hunting, she hides her headless body somewhere safe, and she needs to come back to it before sunrise. And then she becomes a normal person again for the day with no differences from anybody else. One of her origins was that she was a princess who was forced to marry a high-ranked Seminese member who killed her people in battle. But she loved somebody else and was caught with them by the Seminese member. She was then sentenced to be burned alive. She then asked the witch for help, who summoned a spell on her immune to fire, but the spell worked too late and everything was burned besides her internal organs and head.
They say if you see this tree, your day is going to be ruined. Which is impossible because this tree is extinct. This is the Lepidodendron Tree, or the scale tree, which thrived during the Carboniferous period and went extinct at the end of the Permian some 250 million years ago. These trees were found in more tropical areas and could grow up to 160 feet tall and had these signature diamond-shaped scale impressions on their bark. According to the story, if you do see one of these trees, you may have gone through a rip in the fabric of space and time. Now, there are no shortage of videos out there with people claiming they've seen this thing, getting it on video, showing a weird-looking tree, but none of these are actually a lepidodendron tree. As it turns out, this started making the rounds online after this meme was created in late 2023, resulting in tons of people filming trees or cell phone towers that kind of looked like a lepidodendron, but they really weren't. However, with all of the experiments that CERN has been doing lately, maybe there's actually something strange going on with the fabric of space and time. And if you do find one of these trees, remain calm.
Be careful who you're alone with in Japan. You might run into a Hon Ona. In Japanese mythology, the Hon Ona, or Bone Woman, is a spirit whose face, hands, and neck appear to be that of a young, attractive female. However, the rest of her body bears no flesh at all. She uses her beauty to seduce young, unsuspecting men, luring them to a dark and secluded spot. Once they're alone, however, she reveals her true form to her victim, sucking his life force energy and leaving him as nothing more than a pile of dust. Other legends claim that the Hon Ona are the spirits of young women who have died but cannot move on from their lovers in life. To their loved ones, they appear as a beautiful young woman, and they visit them every night, but everyone else can see their true form. But every time they visit their loved ones, they suck some of their energy, until eventually they die or someone intervenes. Comment, I do not claim any negative energy from this video, and follow for more.
Urban legends from around the world. The Green Theater, located in the city Kyiv in Ukraine. It is said that this land was originally a burial site for suicide victims and unborn babies. This site was also once a fortress. There are hundreds of miles of catacombs under the ground. There have been a ton of unexplained accidents that occurred here, including countless building fires. Local legend says that there is a portal to another world down in the catacombs. Now home to a popular venue that you can actually buy tickets to for 2021. What country is next?
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. One of your photos that you have today will be used in your funeral. There are more slaves today than any other time in history. According to the founder of the Walk Free Foundation, there are 46 million slaves in the world today. Your eyes can still move after your death for 15 to 30 seconds. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.4 years. In 1977, we received a radio signal from space that lasted 42 seconds. To this day, no one knows where that signal came from. A lit candle causes more than 15,000 house fires every year. Spider rain could happen at any moment above you. Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in the 2017 version of It, was born in 1990, the year the original It was released. Yeah.
The only way that you can get rid of it is by hugging it, so that you can untie its bonds. Fooling around with me, this some bitch will be here forever. Majority of these souls come back just to take care of unfinished business. It seeks for the living to untie its body so that it can be released. This is the legendary ghost by the name of Pocong. You can find them in Indonesia and also Malaysia. Their bodies have to be tied in 7 different places in order to stay intact. The Indonesian people also stated that these motherfuckers can hop, float, and teleport, and they are highly aggressive. The thing is, it's very popular for people to dress up as Pachong on Halloween. Don't jump out on me. I'm letting y'all know now. My heart weak. I wouldn't be able to take that shit. I got something for you. Wanna scare a grown man? I got that heat for your ass. This is really some scary urban legend shit. They believe after a person dies, their soul will wander Earth for 40 days. Now just imagine that you're walking in a graveyard, 12 o'clock in the morning, and you see a tall white body bag jumping towards you like an Easter bunny. What's your next move?
Bro, what are you guys doing back? What? We didn't even have time to mourn you. You basically left, went to sleep, woke back up, and now you're back. I'm gonna say it. I don't think you guys were gone long enough for the hype. People were crying on this app, saying, we'll never make it back. We were reminiscing on the good times of TikTok, and I dyed my hair for this shit. What are we doing? And the craziest part is that the reason you're back is Trump literally said, Americans deserve to see his inauguration. So he said, nah, bring it back. I am done with this roller coaster of if TikTok is banned, if TikTok is not. Next time you tell us you're leaving, at least stay away 24 hours. Welcome back.
Yeah, I don't know. That ban was crazy. It was like this really hyped, oh my god, TikTok's gone forever. TikTok's gone forever. I'm scared. But then it just came back. Like, literally what happened was January 18th, before the 19th, around 10:30 p.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time, it went dark. We went on the app and then this notification popped up. And everyone was just kind of like, damn, whatever. Like, it's really getting banned. And then, you know, I would say like 10 minutes later, then this notification pops up. And then this one, everyone posted on their story, their social media, oh my god, TikTok's really banned. They really did it. Some people were crying. It was like it was like, you can really tell how addicted these people were to TikTok based off of their reaction. Like, I was kind of chilling. I was like, well, you know, it's banned. I feel like they probably gonna bring it back eventually. But you go to sleep, you wake up, TikTok's still banned. So we're just like, okay, this is like real. A couple minutes later, you go back on TikTok, it's working. You're like, okay. And then you're just like, okay, so it's not banned. It was supposed to get banned on the 19th, got banned on the 18th, but then got restored the first 12 hours of the 19th. It got restored around 12 p.m. EST, like not even 24 hours from it got banned. But Trump said he was going to give it a 90-day extension, and then I'm pretty sure that the CEO sold 50% of the company to like a US-based person. Some people think it's Meta, I'm not sure. But, you know what I'm saying? I'm happy TikTok's back. Like, although there's some videos and some things on TikTok and trends that I think do ruin our society, I'm genuinely happy it's back because, you know, it creates a lot of opportunities for a lot of different people, and it's honestly one of the easiest way to get yourselves out there. You know what really got me mad about the ban, though, is the fact that they removed my editing app. So the app that I edit on, I know it was really TikTok based, but apparently when TikTok got banned, my editing app got banned. So that kind of got me a little bit upset. There's a lot of different things that got banned along with TikTok that people didn't know. There's another app that got banned. Like, it was really bad. And it's funny because a lot of people that deleted TikTok once it got banned, they can't re-download it. Like, if you go in the App Store right now, the Apple Store, the Google Play Store, and you look up TikTok, you won't find it. But if you already have the app in your phone, you can still use it. So there's a lot of friends that I have that completely deleted the app after it went dark, and they now cannot download TikTok back. Very sad for them.